Hello, my lords and ladies, and welcome to the Cast Beyond the Wall. We are your guides to all things Westerosi, and we're here to bring you a review, analysis, and fan v fan debate on each episode of HBO's Game of Thrones successor series, House of the Dragon. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and today we are back with another of our special minisode series called Rapidfire and Blood Reactions, where my special co-host and I provide our immediate reactions to the latest episode of House of the Dragon. Yes, that's right. We just finished watching this roughly 20 minutes ago, and now you're going to get our very stream of consciousness thoughts on the episode. We'll start by quickly providing our thoughts, and then we'll conclude the conversation by picking a winner, a loser, and a wild card player for this week. In this segment, I'm coming straight at you following the episode with my co-host of this segment. She's my sun and moon, coming to us from the beautiful city of Highgarden, Lauren of House Wine. Lauren, welcome back to the show.
Good day, my lord.
My lady, you look very tired.
I am tired.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day, but it's a good thing we're capping it off with a little bit of House of the Dragon. Today we're going to be reacting to Season 1, Episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. Now, before we get into today's Rapid Fire and Blood reactions, just wanted to quickly note that you can keep up with every episode of the Cast Beyond the Wall by following us on Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT and on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Cast Beyond the Wall. And if you enjoyed today's conversation, please rate and review the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts to help us get discovered by more lords and the ladies of the realm, just like you. Now, Lauren, let's go ahead and dive right into House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 6, The Princess and the Queen. Big things happen in this episode, right? We jump ahead 10 years, new actors and actresses in a couple of the key roles. Most notably, we now have Olivia Cooke, who is playing Queen Alicent Hightower, and Emma Darcy, who is now playing Princess Rhaenyra Targaryen as adults. So quite a bit of sort of resetting the status quo, you could say, in this episode. With all that said, though, I mean, what did you think, Lauren, of The Princess and the Queen?
Oh, wow. There was a lot that happened in this episode. It was almost like kind of like a new pilot, you know, like it was almost like the start of another season. Like you said, we had a huge time jump, so much that we have new actors and actresses. I don't know. I just it felt like, I guess there was a lot of things that like I wish I would have seen, but I guess it wasn't deemed important enough to, you know. For instance, Rhaenyra and her lover,
Yeah, I think it's the Lord of the City Watch, one of the Strongs. Sorry, forgive me his first name, but one of the Strong brothers, the son of...
he's a Strong too?
Yes, he's a Strong too. Oh. That was why it was such a big deal when his brother murdered him at the end. He killed his father and his brother. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I was like, man, I don't even know like who this character is. I didn't even know how they met, but here she is having her third baby with him. So.
Yeah. So this is the son of Lord Lionel Strong, mm-hmm. Who was, I guess, I want to say we saw that actor in the last episode.
I wasn't sure. I was like, wedding. Have we seen him before?
But I think he has longer, curlier hair.
Does he talk to his brother?
Yeah, he's talking to his brother in the last one. Oh, sorry, Sir Harwin Strong, the eldest son. Mm-hmm. Sorry, correction there, listener. So that's the knight we're referring to, who has apparently become Rhaenyra's new lover, is Sir Harwin Strong, as played by Ryan Corr. He's the eldest son to Lord Lionel Strong, who is the Hand of the King. He's also the heir to Harrenhal. So
okay, well, I was just like, oh, okay, like this is a thing, and it was a little interesting too because you had the new actors and actresses for some characters, but then you had the same actors and actresses of other characters, so it kind of made it a little interesting to watch. It almost felt like it took me a second to like really focus and make sure and, you know, be like, okay, these are the same characters. I did think that they did good though. I like the casting for Rhaenyra and Alicent. Man, Alicent, you know, 10 years later, she is
Ice Queen.
She is resentful.
Oh yeah, full of resentment, absolutely.
Yeah, like any
Ice Queen.
It feels like any friendship that was there between her and Rhaenyra is just like completely gone now.
Well, no, at one point Rhaenyra even when trying to broker some sort of truce between the two of them. She's like, and we were once friends, by the way.
Yeah.
And Alicent's like, bitch, please, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
So overall, you're pretty satisfied with the episode?
I liked it. There was a lot of stuff that happened that kind of just gets me. Oh, okay. Well, this can lead to many things. This right here can lead to something, So it has me intrigued. We've had this talk about the time jumps. This one was a little harder to, I guess, bear, but I'm fine with it. As long as it pays off.
Yeah, so I guess my thing is the time jump is fine. It does feel kind of weird, though, having this almost full reset halfway through the season, because we've had small time jumps here and there, but this is the first time where I was like, oh, I feel like we're sort of like restarting the story a little bit, but 10 years later, because there were certain things that occurred in the last week, specifically related to like Daemon's storyline, that I was like, oh, some momentum's coming his way. There's going to be some things that are going to happen based off of decisions made in the last episode. But then you have a 10-year time jump and you're like, oh, well, I guess nothing happened with any of that stuff that seemed like it had some momentum in terms of like politicking from the Daemon perspective. And the jury's out for me whether or not these time jumps are going to work at the end of the day. I think we got to wait until the season's over to look back and say, oh, yeah, this makes sense, that the way they jumped around. But this is for the first time where I was like, man, I feel like we're missing a lot. I feel like characters are in fundamentally different places at the beginning of this episode than they were at the last episode. And that's where it starts to get a little dicier and a little harder to swallow. Because before, the time jumps, even when they were like 3 years, the characters were still dealing with consequences of the previous episode to a certain degree. There was some sort of through line. And of course, there is a through line here, most specifically with Rhaenyra having the 3 kids that are not that are not Lenore's kids, right? That's really the main thing, is the character relationships and sort of how she's becoming a mother, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It feels though like it's so far removed from where she was last episode that I have a hard time really fully jumping on board with oh man, I feel like we missed some pretty big plot beats. Now that said, again, as I've reiterated in previous episodes, and I just said a moment ago, maybe when we get to the end of the season and we see where they're taking these characters, it'll feel totally justified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's interesting because I guess a lot can change in 10 years, but like you said, it's almost like Rhaenyra, for example, fundamentally changed. Like I pictured her like not even like wanting to have kids.
And she had 3.
Yeah, and she had 3, and I'm like, and the one that she has, I thought maybe it would have been Kristen Cole's, like her first one, but apparently it's not. So it's like she obviously didn't, end up getting pregnant by him, but she did get pregnant by someone. I don't know. It just feels like there's something I'm missing, and maybe it's not important enough, but I still want to know that story. Like, how did they meet? How did this happen? How did you have the first kid? But it is kind of interesting with the hair color.
I think I mentioned that in our last episode. I was like, I guarantee this is going to come down to an argument over hair color, just like it was with Robert's kids,
exactly.
Robert's quote unquote kids, mm-hmm. when they all had Lannister gold hair.
So it's a very big deal, and this is Targaryen hair, where so blonde.
It is true, but here's the thing: it is funny because, I mean, she is still a Targaryen, unlike Robert Baratheon, where I'm pretty sure none of those kids were his at all. These are at least all half her kids, exactly, so they are Targaryen. There is Targaryen blood there for sure. It's just apparently it's not the dominant gene.
Nope, it's not. And I'm like, is there some truth to that? I guess I don't know what makes more dominant on hair, but.
Yeah, anyway, beside the point, I just think it's as predicted in previous episodes, when she has kids that don't look like Targaryens, people are going to start talking and whispering as they did And that sort of came to a head. And I think that's really probably the biggest carryover from last episode. And again, that wasn't even in the previous episode, but sort of this idea that one of these days she's going to have kids and they're not going to look like her. And okay, we just jumped right to the part where that's one day. Mm-hmm. And now the other thing a couple other things I want to hone on here. Sir Criston Cole, you mentioned earlier, now fiercely loyal to Alicent, Queen Alicent Hightower, apparently really hates Rhaenyra at this point. Mm-hmm. He even calls her the C word at one point in the episode.
I was like, damn.
I was like, man, you killed a man for her, and now you're just like, it's very cold.
But did he kill her for her, or is it more just because he was upset that his honor was, being questioned and was going to be, the secrets were going to come to light, and he didn't want that?
Yeah, I want to say it's probably a little bit of both, because I do think he loved her. He tried to get her to run away with him. Mm-hmm. So there's something there. So
that's something that did carry through. Is I feel like Alicent kind of saved Criston Cole at like his lowest point, like he was going to kill himself, and she stopped him. And then it seems like that loyalty and partnership has carried through over these past 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, so much so that he's supposed to be apparently training all of the Targaryen children how to fight, but he's clearly favoring the two Alicent Hightower's children versus Rhaenyra's children, which again just seems really petty. But, here we go. He's a bitter man who... I just have another question. Again, this goes back to the time jump thing. This dude murdered somebody at the wedding. It just... How he kept his position. I mean, I know.
Again,
Alicent.
We don't know.
Alicent is the queen.
I guess, she probably was like, no, like I'm vouching for him, or no, we're not. Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. Is like we don't know. We totally skipped through all of that.
Yeah. So again, I think this is where I start to question the strengths and weaknesses of the time jump, but we won't really know until the season's done whether it was worth it or not. So I am still willing to suspend my disbelief, but I have lots of questions about what happened between this episode and last episode. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing it does is the pacing. It feels weird because you mentioned it's almost like a second pilot. It really feels like one. Like we have to reintroduce all these characters and sort of their motivations. It almost makes the first half of the season feel like a prologue to this storyline. So I'm wondering if we're going to get more of the story in this particular period. We're all just waiting for the king to kill over any second now.
Oh, not this episode.
Couldn't you believe? I know I was wrong.
He looked so bad.
I called episode 6. That was my bet, and I was wrong.
You know what? What if it ends up being 7, just like Robert
Baratheon?
Yep.
Hey, man, symmetry. There seems to be a lot of symmetry between this and season 1 of Game of Thrones. So, I can believe it. But, so we have... Yeah, so the pacing, I feel like, is kind of weird. It makes the episode feel slower than it needs to be. We don't really get to the good stuff. Now, all that said, I think there are a few things I really did like about this episode. Number one, we finally get a proper, last week I declared that Daemon was probably the first big schemer of House of the Dragon because he killed his wife and then took a bunch of her lands. And I was like, oh, power play right there. I was like, you see climbing the ladder. And in this episode, they're like, Daemon decided to run away from Westeros, get married. And
he's a family man now.
But he doesn't like his kids.
But he's also a bad father.
He's also a bad father. Well, so anyway, I was like, okay, well, I guess Daemon did not amount to... Again, I have questions about, like... This seems a lot... He's in a way different place this episode than he was last episode.
How did he get to this point? Although I do like him and Lady Lyanna together. I'm like, oh, that's a smart match.
Yeah, until she gets incinerated by her dragon in the same episode that we meet the older version of her.
It is... They did mention at the end of the episode, like, the kind of contrast between... Because this is the same thing that happened to Rhaenyra's mom...
Right.
In the first episode, but obviously,
right, Viserys had to make a similar decision about his wife.
He had to make a decision. Whereas I almost don't know if Daemon did get in this one. It didn't seem like it's like, oh, the doctor's consoling Daemon, saying, "Hey, like here's the options," but there was almost like we missed something because she made it all the way out to the beach, and I'm like, did no one see her? did no one stop her? Like and I feel like she made the decision for herself. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to let anyone, make this decision.
No, she literally said earlier in the episode that she didn't want to go out being like some country, country wife. She wanted to go out a dragon rider.
And that was really sad too, that she was like, Jagars, like that. And it was a moment where you could see like the bond of a dragon, because like a lot of what we've seen now is just, dragons, fire, destruction. But like this was a moment where you can really see that bond between, a dragon rider and a dragon.
Yeah, we haven't seen too much of that really. But going back to things I like though. So last week I was thinking, Daemon's going to be our first major schemer making some moves. And then he does nothing with it this week. However, as we noted last week's episode, Larys Strong entered the game last week. I think he'd actually been around before that, but I think he was getting more scenes last week.
He came in hot.
Well, yeah. Last week he came in and you're like, this guy's got an angle. I thought he was representing the entire Strong family. Like secretly the Strong family was going to be trying to either align with the High Tower or usurp the king. No.
I think we find out that's not the case.
No. It's just Larys. Larys is just a schemer. He's the schemer playing the Game of Thrones.
All along, it was just about him.
Yeah, had nothing to do with his family. And I love that we get to see him. The queen asks him for help. He then does a super duper evil thing that not only positions him well, because now he is the heir of Harrenhal, but also he has dirt on the queen now.
Yeah, okay. Can you clarify? Okay, I remember them talking. So clearly, obviously, they also have kind of like a friendship.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's built over
She was
the
having
years.
dinner with him,
and so she was confiding in him. But okay, so what did she say? Like, what did she ask him to do?
I don't think she actually asked him to do anything. I think
like hypothetically,
I think she was saying like he was like, oh my father can't be the hand. He must step down, and she's like, yeah, I know. But he's going back to Harrenhal with your brother. I don't think I need to go back and watch the scene again. Again, listeners, you're getting very stream of consciousness here. I don't think she specifically asked for anything, but she implied that it would be great if he wasn't the hand anymore.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay. So he goes and pulls some prisoners out of the dungeon, takes their tongues, and I guess in exchange for their freedom, they go and light Harrenhal on fire and kill his brother. So Larys' brother and father. So his father, who is in fact the hand of the king, Lord Lionel Strong, and again his brother Ser Harwin Strong, who just happens to be the real father of Rhaenyra's 3 kids. So, it gets pretty dicey here. But see, anyway, he's got an angle. So now the queen was like, oh my gosh, I didn't ask you for that. And he's like, but didn't you? So he's, this is definitely, I feel like one of the first major straight up schemes where people are getting killed. And that sort of dirt is being leveraged.
I mean, that just shows you how evil he can be. I mean, to kill your own father and brother. I mean,
we'll see. It positions him well in 2 ways, though. Like I said, he is now the heir of Harrenhal, and he has dirt on the queen. And I love how he justifies it. He's like, well, "It's all for the good of the realm, of course." Because you did say that your father can't be hand of the king, right? Like, so anyway, it's just I thought that was really, really clever. I'm really interested to see where that goes next week, and I don't know. Hopefully, Larys, can play a bit of a Baelish role here, where he's a little conniving and playing things on both sides. So far, we've really only seen him align with Alicent Hightower. But anyway, so enter a new villain, which is great, which is excellent. I'm so excited about that. Lauren, anything else you'd like to add about this week's episode?
Well, we witnessed not one childbirth, but 2. And
ouch.
Yeah. Man, women have it tough, don't they?
Yes, they do. For a multitude of reasons.
I just love how Alicent was like, I'd like to see the baby. Like, and
what a power move. The second Rhaenyra
done with labor.
She wants to see the baby now. Are you freaking kidding me?
I knew the second that they said that, though. I was like, oh, well, she wants to see the baby because she wants to see the hair color.
Hair color, yes.
And that was kind of gruesome. Like, that was a neat scene, though, like, because you followed her from, like, that moment to her making it all the way up there. She's like, I'm not leaving my baby.
Oh, I know. Well, I don't blame her, but also she was, like, bleeding out.
Yeah,
like,
everywhere.
It was so sad, so painful. And it just goes to show you again how cold Alicent has become that she would do that to Rhaenyra.
But also Rhaenyra's perseverance.
Yes. Determination. Which, unfortunately for her, does not come through by the end of the episode because she decides to move her family to Dragonstone. So there's a little bit... so I should clarify that the heir of the king always gets Dragonstone. It is like a... at this point in
it's like a birthright.
Yeah, at this point in the history of Westeros. So she's actually had it for the whole time that she's been heir, but she decided, you kind of pick up, I don't know if you picked up on it, but she said that the reason that she had not left to go there yet is because she did not trust Alicent to have her best interest at heart. She thinks, she's going to manipulate him. If she can't represent herself in those meetings, then that she doesn't stand a chance getting the throne.
Yeah. Which, by the way, it seems like Rhaenyra and her father have a good relationship. They seem like, there's no, because before it seemed like there was kind of tension there. But it seems like they do have this like deep love for each other. So yeah, it makes sense that she wouldn't want, as they put it, Alicent spilling honey in his ear.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if you noticed speaking of the king, the rat crawling across the fireplace.
Yeah,
I think it was supposed to be
a rat.
Well, there's been a rat. There's been a rat that's been let into the hen house. So wolf let into the hen house. Sort of
I was
thing.
thinking that made me think of Departed too, like with the rat.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
is this symbolism? Is this metaphor?
Oh,
there's a rat.
Absolutely
yeah,
is.
absolutely.
Yeah. They let Larys, and Larys has been bled into the inner circles by Alicent.
Oh, also, okay. So speaking of new characters, it was fun seeing all the Targaryen children and the Valerian children. A lot of blonde hair, a lot of blonde and silver hair. Not the brown hair though.
There was two silver-haired kids, and
well, I think there was three, honestly. Or is there just two?
I think
okay,
there's just two.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, but man, I didn't know we were watching Succession.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I know. It feels very Succession. You even have the privileged rich kid masturbating out a window.
I know.
Like
as soon as I saw it, I was literally like, wait, have they done this before? I've seen this before.
Yeah, she was like, is this a Game of Thrones? Right? I was like, no, I think you're thinking of Succession. You're thinking of the scene where Kieran Culkin's character also masturbates on a window.
Kieran Culkin, he's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, separate podcast, but yes, he's great. Yeah, lots of nods. We're going to get so much more into each one of these details in this week's in-depth recap discussion. But with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up this week's Rapid Fire and Blood reactions by picking a winner, a loser, and a wild card player. So, Lauren Weingart, who do you pick for winner, loser, and wild card?
It's always hard for me to pick a winner because I feel like everyone loses. Everyone is losers. I would say, so I'll start with the loser. I think the loser was Lady Lyanna because
she did get lit on fire by her own dragon.
Lit on fire by her own dragon. Although she did go out the way she wanted to, but that was really sad. I think the winner, I'm gonna say someone that wasn't in the episode.
Okay.
Yet. So Otto Hightower.
Yes,
because he might be back as the Hand of the King.
I think it's implied. I mean, Larys even says, "So you're gonna send your dad a letter?"
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the whole plan was for that. So he may win, even though he didn't realize that he was up for it. He won. So the wild card, the most wildest wild card, Larys.
Yeah, Larys Strong, totally the wild card player.
He's got full-on villain vibes. Obviously, we're finding out things like he doesn't even have motivation that's based on his family. It seems like it's just purely him. So obviously, we're super intrigued on like, okay, what is his agenda? What's his motivation? And what is he going to do to make it happen?
Right. No, that's it. I am on the same page with you. Larys Strong, the wild card player. I almost put him as the winner, but I didn't put him as the winner because we don't know what he wants. Mm-hmm. He has political advantage because he got the title as he is now the Lord of Harrenhal, or heir to the Harrenhal King Tower, I guess what you call it. And we know he has dirt on the Queen that he could leverage at any moment. Pretty powerful, but we don't know what his end game is. Like, what does he hope to achieve, really? So I put him in the wild card as well. I think this week's loser is Rhaenyra. She had to forfeit her position. She despite her strongest efforts to kind of either ignore or silence or divert attention away from the fact that her kids are not Lenore's kids, were a failure. So much so that she decided that them staying in King's Landing was more of a detriment to her cause than a help. So it feels a little bit like she's retreating just a bit, just so she can get away from the whispers, as she called them. And that means this week's winner is Alicent Hightower. She wants Rhaenyra pushed out. She got Rhaenyra pushed out. She wants the king's ear. She's got his ear. Again, the big caveat is Larys Strong has something on her.
Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't pick her as the winner, because I was like, she looked worried.
She did look worried, but she also still got what she wanted. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a win for her.
Take the good with the bad.
At least for the episode. I can't say the same for the season. We'll find out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, thank you so much for tuning into this week's Rapid Fire and Blood Reacts. Again, I want to reiterate, if you enjoyed this conversation, you can help us out, because we need your help. You can rate and review this podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And by doing so, you'll help us get discovered by more lords and ladies of the realm just like you. You can also follow the Cast Beyond the Wall on Twitter at cast_beyond_GOT, or on Facebook at facebook.com/Cast Beyond the Wall. And you can also, if nothing else, send us an email with your thoughts about this week's loser, winner, or wild card player by emailing us at castbeyondthewall@live.com. Lauren Weingart, where can people keep up with you until next week?
You can follow me at Video Peach Productions on Instagram and Facebook.
And of course, you can find me tweeting about all the things film, television, video games over on Twitter at CMastersTalk. That is letter C Masters Talk. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Rapid Fire and Blood Reactions. We'll catch you again in our next episode where we'll take a deep dive look into Season 1, Episode 6, The Princess and the Queen.